What's up? Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching these. If you found them helpful, it would mean a lot to me if you could like or subscribe to the channel because I really want to teach as many people as possible about this new metaverse and Web3 space, and you liking and subscribing would help me do that. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about Spoke and publishing your scenes through Spoke, and by bypassing Spoke, what the strengths and weaknesses are of both. And by the end of the episode, we actually take a student's Blender model and we walk around in it. So it's a fun one. The whole series, Building the Metaverse, is sponsored by UtopiaVR.com. They want what I want. They want you to know more about this opportunity, and for you to have the education and training you need to be able to take advantage of it. So check them out, utopiavr.com. They're a super cool company. And now let's get your scenes published. Let's get them on the web, metaverse style. Let's do it. So if I have a scene and I want to publish it, like, for example, if I open up one of my scenes from before, is this really it? Okay, yeah. So here I've got my office. This is a very old office, and I was even experimenting with having multiple floors on the office. So this is like kind of one of the original ones. And if it will load in here, yeah, you can see, like I said, I was experimenting with adding in multiple floors, seeing what that would do to poly count and whatnot. But if I have my, office here, this is one of the original versions of it. Uh-oh, like I was saying, I think oh, there we go. Got the plant in the other room, and I do have light bakes on here. Oh, I've got two plants, and the table is more rectangular, and just haven't done the trim on the floor or anything like that. You can publish your scene in two ways right now. You can either use Spoke or you can bypass Spoke. I really like Spoke. Spoke is super cool. But there's a lot of reasons why you might want to bypass it, and I would be happy to bypass I would be very happy to go straight from Blender to publishing a room if it were possible, and not use Spoke, but Spoke is actually super powerful in a lot of ways. So if I export out this GLB, I want to make sure that I have my Hubs components turned on, so that way if I look in here in the materials, there's a light map file plugged into a Mozilla light map node, and that light map file shows me that, let's plug it in here, it's, let me make sure that the UVs are set up correctly. So I've got a UV map node that I don't even know what this is. I'm gonna get rid of it. I've got a UV map node telling the light map what UVs to use. And then I have that plugged into a Mozilla light map node. And I just applied it to a background just so you can see what it looks like. And you can see that it has like a lot of artifacts on the edge here. And that's because this one has been denoised, and the denoiser doesn't work great with seams. And even this old school way of having it in here, where it's a PNG and not an HDR file format, like this is all kind of, let's say, 1.0, version 1.0 of this room, and also of how light baking used to work in Mozilla Hubs. So it's a little bit of a history lesson too. But now I don't need that background node. I can just have this Mozilla light map, this light map plugging into this UV map node, plugging into this light map texture, plugging into the Mozilla light map node. And if you need this node, all you have to do is add in the Hubs component add-on, which will bring this little window here, add Hubs Mozilla light map, and then you get one of those nodes. It looks like I cranked the intensity here too, just trying to, get this light map to look nice, because at the time we didn't have 32-bit textures supported. And at the time, actually, look at how wrong all this stuff is. This should be set to non-color. This should be set to non-color. Wow, I don't even know if yeah, this was probably set up pretty poorly, and probably all of them are set up very poorly. Yep, that's right. They all are. Those should be non-color. Doesn't matter. Good enough. So if I file export here, GLB, then if I go to the extension set Hubs components, if this is not checked, then it won't bring in this Mozilla Lightmap node. So I definitely want to have that checked on so that it knows to have the Mozilla Lightmap node in the GLB file. I always limit it to selected objects just in case there's a bunch of stuff in the scene that is confusing. And I'll say this, I'll call this publishing tutorial. Oh, whatever. And then that's my GLB. It's ready to go. So if I open this up, it what is hubs.mozilla.com, which sometimes referred to as HMC, like hubs.mozilla.com. HMC is the main branch of hubs.mozilla, and you can pop into Spoke, and you can go to your projects, and you can create a new project and a new empty project, and it will spin up Spoke. And Spoke is a scene compiler, right? It allows you to compile multiple elements of a scene. So it has these 3D terrain geo in here by default, and a skybox, right? And a spawn point, and a directional light. And in the scene, I can go to my assets, I can hit upload, and I can go to virtual assets, environment. Actually, I saved, there we go. And publishing tutorial, and open this up. And if it doesn't crash, that should just work. And that's fun. Okay, so now it's here in my assets, right? My assets, all here it is. So what I can do is I can just right click on this and place the object at origin. I can just left click and drag it out here, and then it will get kind of random transforms on it. But if I place the object at the origin, and if I built it at the origin in here, then it should be in exactly the same spot. So there's my office. Cool. And you can see that the light map is, more or less working, right? It's baked onto the walls. It's kind of working. A little bit weird. Looks like I didn't select the ceiling. That is the downside of using the selected objects only, because it looks like I didn't actually select the ceiling. So you want to make sure you're in X-ray mode when you select everything, so that way you actually get everything. But that's okay. Still good enough for now. Now I don't need this big crater world, so I'm going to delete that. And now I've got, my office in here with light bake mapping, and it's got an open ceiling plan, which I actually think is pretty cool looking.
It's not so bad.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of nice. It would suck if it rained, but other than
Yeah.
that, it's
But
pretty nice.
probably it's glass, you never know.
Yeah, we could slap on a little roughness texture up there. It'd be nice. Cool. Yeah. So the really nice thing about hubs is that, like, let's say I separated these things out, I could have this environment outside of the GLB, and I could really use it as a scene compiler. So if I just re-export this, and let's say I change something, like for example, I want to update the roof. Like I missed the roof. I want to make sure that I got the roof this time. And I want to re-export this. And I also want to re-export it without the sky box that I built, or the sky sphere in this case. And just go to this, and I'll say, okay, tutorial 02. What's super powerful about this, make sure you're in hubs components, selected objects, cool. What's super powerful about Spoke is that, one of the many things that's super powerful about Spoke is that I can select this object. Well, first I'll upload version 2. You can see it's going to upload pretty quick. It's a pretty small file. And you can see that now it's just the room there. I can actually select this file, and if I right click on the object I just uploaded, I can copy the URL, and instead of deleting this one and bringing this one in, I can actually just replace that URL with the new one, and it will just be there. And so now I have the roof and all that stuff, and I can have this sky dome as part of a series of sky domes. I could have, one of them that's the mountains, the happy mountains and tree landscape. I could have one that's New York. I could have one that's, underwater. I could have one that's in space. I could do kind of whatever I wanted, and I would just be able to continually swap those out here for really quick customizations of this office. So if I was renting this office, or if, let's say, my company bought this office, or yeah, from an artist, from a 3D artist, and they want their sales team to meet in New York, and they want their design team to meet in space, and they want it's super easy for someone with zero Blender experience to be able to swap this stuff out, right? All you have to do is just, upload your skydomes. And I think I actually even have, a few different, here's Forest Mountains, and I can open this up. And then I can add, place object at origin. And there we go. Now I have got those two different things. And if I need to move this around, or if I want to rotate it, or if I want to change it, then all I have to do is just add a new one to the list and swap it out here, and then republish the room. So this is like super freaking powerful. It's a little bit nicer than having a GLB, like a single GLB that is your office in space and your office in New York and your office in the woods. Like, instead of just having one office and 3 skydomes, that's just a little bit more tedious on file size, and keeping everything organized is a little bit more difficult. Another really cool thing about Spoke is, other than they do have like a little architecture kit in here. So if you have zero Blender experience, which I'm not talking to anyone who had zero Blender experience, you can build your own stuff here. Like, you can create your stairs that go like over to a window or whatever, and then there's all kinds of like architecture kits, which is pretty well thought out. It's very modular. There's columns and twisty columns and all kinds of fun stuff, roof pieces of all types. So people have built full environments using this semi-Gothic architecture kit with columns and stairs and multiple floors and all that stuff. So that's neat too. It's quite well organized, doors and windows and all this stuff. You got some rocks, always fun, right? Dropping in rocks into your scene if you want to, and you can scale these up and down, right? If I wanted some rocks on the table, that would be a pretty achievable thing to do. And again, these are like, these are compiled in Spoke, so I wouldn't have to have this in my Blender scene. I could just organize everything. I could just compile it all in here. It does have a import from Sketchfab, which is a pretty fantastic feature set. Like, you can just browse for things that you think your office or whatever your community, whoever's meeting in here, would think is a really nice thing to have. And then all of a sudden, I've got it, a cappuccino. It's probably, oh yeah, I got a little cappuccino here. Like, super, super fast and easy. And it doesn't take a whole design process of like figuring out like what you want in Blender and compiling it. And then when somebody wants to move it, well, you wouldn't be able to move this one, I don't think. No, you wouldn't. It would be baked into the scene. But yeah, it's way more customizable and way more changeable in Spoke. But the real reason why I like it is because you can actually do, if this is baked lighting, but you can do dynamic lighting in here quite convincingly. So if I just delete this, just get rid of all this stuff, delete it all, and I'll go back to let's see, where's the crater? I don't. I might just have to make a new project. File, back to projects. Okay. New project, new project. And if I get rid of this directional light, and this is something I talked a little bit about last week, is that you can light in here. Is you can create lights that are real-time lights, and you can do all of your lighting inside of Spoke. And this gives you a lot of control over the individual parameters on each one of these lights. If you want to change the shadow bias or the shadow radius of any of these lights, which you can't really see right now. But I did kind of a deeper dive on this stuff last week, so I won't go heavy into that. Though it is really nice being able to see like what your stuff is going to look like in Hubs, because Blender and Hubs is the same thing as when you're going from Substance Painter to like Arnold. It's just not going to look the same. There's translation between software, and part of creating a pipeline, a production pipeline, is making sure that the last step of a department is congruent with the first step of the next department. And the closer you can get it, the easier everything flows through the pipe, right? So it's like, again, same as in Substance Painter, when you're painting all this stuff and you have this PBR material in Painter, it doesn't look the way it will look in Arnold or V-Ray, but you can get close. You can create the same studio environment in Painter, and you can create the same sky dome in Arnold, and you can create the same type of lighting, and you can create like a 50% gray ball that's kind of the same in both, and have them be as neutral as possible. You can get it to be as close as you can, but you're still going to end up doing fine tweaking in the path tracer because path tracing in real time just looks so different. And I think it's the same thing with Blender. Blender's real-time rendering engine or Blender's path tracing engine, whether it's Eevee or Cycles, um, it's just going to look very different than the way Hubs is going to render out your scene. But Spoke is basically a Hubs renderer. So far, the only difference between Spoke and Hubs is like a color space thing. I'm pretty sure that's the only difference I know of, at least. And so, and the color space thing is it's annoying. It would be better if those two were matched up too. But and I think they'll get there. Like the Hubs development team is like a group of rock stars that are always working on all this stuff, but they're also like in taking in requests in the Discord and like from 50 different directions of people being like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And they have to kind of decide what is the best thing to work on at what point, and how they can try to accommodate as many use cases and requests as possible. Seems like a very difficult thing to be doing, but for me, I think that Spoke is like a really great demonstration of what lighting will look like. So if you have dynamic lighting, then this is super duper useful, and you can simply publish scenes by bringing them in here, and you can see that that dynamic lighting is illuminating my office here. I'll move the spawn point over here. So we spawn in the room, and I'll make the person face forward. Nope. Oops. There we go. And this little dude is gonna spawn in here. And then all I have to do is hit publish to Hubs. And this is all in HMC, hubs.mozilla.com. And so this is going to be my test for publishing tutorial. And there we go. Is there a question there?
No.
Okay. And this is pretty sweet. It tells you like everything about the scene. I've got 20 unique materials. That's all right. I've got 40,000 triangles. That's all right. I'm using 0 large textures. That's perfect. Only 1 light. That's the little dynamic one I put in the hallway. And my file size is really small. And so this is going to load up on basically any device. Like a mobile phone will be just fine logging into this office. So that's kind of the process of publishing through Spoke, and it's it's quite easy. That creates a scene. So that scene is a hub scene. Oh, thank you so much. That scene is a hub scene. You can see right here it says create a room with this scene, right? Or you can edit it in Spoke or you share on Twitter, right? So if I click create a room in this scene, a room is an actual room like that we could meet in, right? It has a specific URL, and if we show up here, like if I send you guys the link, then I'll be able to talk to you guys in this space, and it will be fun. You can see that all the reflective surfaces are all pure black, and it's because I got rid of the skylight, which at this point in time is the only way to have reflective surfaces in Spoke. So I've been talking about how cool Spoke is and how powerful it is, and you can see like, yeah, I'm walking around. One of the things that is really neat is that if I update the scene, it will update automatically every room. So like I go, oh no, my reflections are all broken, like it's not working. So let me go back to Spoke, go, okay, let me add in a sky box. Here we go. I'm gonna add in a sky box. This is a nice procedurally generated sun and sky that I can kind of set to, let me see if I can set to like sunrise. Yeah, something like that. That's fun. And you can say change the scattering amount for the atmosphere and get a nice like, oh yeah, Sahara Desert like 4 a.m. in the summer kind of thing, or 5 a.m. And then if I republish that, what's sick? Well, it says, hey, this viewport here, that little thumbnail is from this scene preview camera, which is right there. But if I want to change it to here, I mean, I think that's actually a really good one. But you can move your viewport wherever you like, and then you can hit set from viewport, and then that's where it will be. So that's a cool automatic generator as well. I kind of like where it was before ish, so I'm gonna put it back. And then if I hit publish to Hubs, you can see that it's changed now. That's awesome. Hit save and publish. It's going to bring up the scene statistics. And then it can hit publish scene. Now, what's cool about this is the scene has been updated. So if I just refresh this room, even while we're in it, like if I send you guys this link right now, then you guys will actually see a different version of this room than I will, because it has been updated. So if I just, all I have to do is hit refresh, and it's the exact same room, which is, again, it's an instance of the scene. It's now got a skybox. So you can see the reflections aren't black anymore on the door. They're actually reflecting that. If you get real close, you can see they're reflecting that sunrise, which is over here. Let me just. There it is. Uh-huh. And so all things are reflecting in that direction are going to reflect that sky. But you might be like, oh, but I don't want it to reflect the sky. I want it to reflect the room, right? Like I want shiny things in this room to reflect the room that it's in. Well, unfortunately, now we're going to start talking about the limitations of Spoke. Spoke at the time of the recording of this video, which hopefully will be outdated. Spoke doesn't support environment maps yet. Spoke doesn't support 32-bit texture light maps yet, or 32-bit floating point textures. So what will basically happen very often is that while these Mozilla developers are creating all this new innovative stuff on advancing the platform, Spoke trails behind, right? Because Spoke is its own system, and there is a way to bypass Spoke completely. So if you want to bypass Spoke completely, you can hit new project, and you can just hit this import from Blender instead of new empty project, which will bring you to that creator scene. You can hit import from Blender. For importing from Blender, you have to get your own PNG thumbnail. It won't automatically generate with the camera in the scene. And a lot of stuff, and any of the, let's see, I'll just go back to that. Any of these elements in here, the hemisphere lights, the spotlights, the point lights, there's water, which is pretty cool. And particle emitters, right, which emit these, particles that can go on forever, and you change what image you want to be, and kind of like how long they last, and how opaque they are when they start, and how opaque they end up, right? So you have all this cool stuff which you can adjust the values on, and change, and see in real time the results of your value changing, which is really, really powerful. And that you will not have access to if you bypass Spoke. The way to do this, if you bypass Spoke, is to actually go in Blender here. Oh, there's another one. Waypoints. Waypoints are super awesome. So if you have waypoints here, waypoints can be spawn points. Like this is a waypoint, but it's also a spawn point. A waypoint is the seats. They're the things that you can click on them, and have your avatar pop to that location, right? So if I just open it up, you may have seen in my office, you can sit down. Also, media frames. Media frames are freaking amazing. Media frames allow you to, let me move this up. Media frames allow you to add media to the scene, whether that be an image or a 3D model in this space. And so, how this plays out practically, my server's asleep, so it's taking a second to open up. But as soon as it wakes up, I'll pop into my office and show you kind of how you can use all these things. So I started talking about the cons, but I'm actually not finished yet with the pros because freaking Spoke has got so many cool things that you can do in it. There we go. It's finally loaded up. If I pop into this scene right here, which this is my Mozilla Hubs Cloud. So Mozilla Hubs Cloud is a instance of Mozilla Hubs that you can buy and you can run your own private server. And so it's not actually on hubs.mozilla.com. It's your own thing. And you can see here I've got waypoints over each one of these chairs. If I click on it, oh, I sit down. So cool, right? And I can sit on this one or I can sit on this one, right? We're actually seating at the table. This is fun. And on this projector screen here, if I pop out of the chair, I can, let me just see, where do I have something that I can, let's say Discord. I'll go to the all 3D events and I will just grab this building the metaverse promo thing. And if I drag and drop this into the scene, should work. Yeah, there it is in my scene. And I can actually, you see there's media frames on the walls here. So if I put this right there, pop, it just automatically pops in, right? That is the length of it, the size of it, all this stuff is just like automatically works. This media frame can also support PDFs, so you can have presentations where you're clicking through the PDF. And I have a bunch of other media frames here on the wall because at the time I was seeing if this could be used as a Zoom like alternative. So you could have all these different webcams on the wall. I could have my webcam on the wall, and do a presentation. So these media frames are super powerful and super fun, and super easy to make in Spoke by just dragging around, putting them on the spot of the wall that you want them, and you can just unlock this and make it, I guess, like a 16 by 9. And then you can scale this to whatever size you'd like, but that's like a widescreen proportion media frame. And then you can put any videos you want in there, whatever, automatically, and you get this like this display. So that's like, again, there's lots of stuff in here. You can see there's even audio zones and there's all kinds of things that you can do um, inside of Spoke. Now, all of this stuff you can do inside of Blender as well. It's just a little bit more tedious. So if I open up my HD remake of this office, which you can see I've changed a little bit. I've got, only half the sky dome now because you don't need those extra polys. And it's also way bigger and it makes sense from this camera perspective, right? But if I go into um, my office on Hubs, which is right here, I've got my scene ID. This is my MetaHood office on Hubs. It's not on MetaHood, it's on Hubs. I can create a room. This is my scene ID. I can create a room and pop in here. And you'll notice as I walk in, I don't have seats. I mean, there's chair models here, but I'm holding spacebar and I can't sit down in them. I can hit G and then fly over them, which is what I've been doing, and just kind of like sitting there, right? And it, kind of it works, right? but I can't pop through these. And other people are often like, I'm having meetings where other people are just standing next to chairs, right? And it's just not very comfortable. This big, huge media frame here, that's awesome. Or the presentation board, it's awesome. But let's see, where's my there it is. Bring this over here. And oh, it didn't even work. I don't think that's I don't know why. I almost stopped it. Okay. I don't know why it's not. Let me just try this again. Copy, paste. Yeah, there we go. And there's no media frame here. I haven't put the media frame in because in order for me to put the media frame in, I actually have to, in Blender here, I have to go over to this wall. I have to create an empty, add empty, and I'll just use the arrows empty because that gives me direction, right? And I'll put this arrows empty into the room and I'll put it on the wall. And then I can assign a hubs component, add component, and this is all the components that are in Spoke. Like you can do all this. So there's the particle emitter, there's the waypoints, there's the directional lights, point lights, and all that stuff. Like I can create a media frame there, and now this thing will load in as a media frame. But how big is it? I don't know. I can set the settings here. I can set its size. I can set its parameters. That's cool. Um, but it's kind of hard to figure out like how to like what this will look like without selecting everything and then file export glb and then say okay, so publishing tutorial, let me just publishing tutorial, and I'll put this with my glb, right? I'll make sure my extensions is on included selected objects, and then I will go back into my hubs.mozilla.com Spoke project, or if I want to bypass Spoke, I can just do what I was doing before. I can go to my projects, I can hit new project, and I hit this import from Blender, and then I select that GLB, and it will create a GLB, or it will create a scene based off of that GLB, which is, will work. See, there we go, publishing tutorial. I do need, quite annoyingly, I do need to make sure that I have some type of thumbnail, and it has to be a PNG, which is like also a little bit annoying. So I need to just create a demo one like that I'll always use. But let's see, I've got a PNG here, low light, and then I'll call this um, publishing tutorial project, and hit publish. And then I don't get that spoke scene. I go straight from the GLB straight to having a scene be made, and from the scene being made, I can create a room. So there is my publishing tutorial project. I can open in Hubs, and you can see that's my thumbnail. It's just a glow light, but there we go. Create a room. Join room, enter room, allow. And if I walk over here, there's a media frame somewhere there. See, not sure. Let me just see if I copy paste. Yeah, there it is. There's my media frame. So I'll put it right there. And turns out it's facing the wrong way. And it's not the right scale. So I need to kind of figure out what scale this is. And then I guess so this one, the reason why I chose this arrows is because Hubs components face -y with this arrow. So I do know that if I put this right here in the center, just ahead, and I rotate it around so that it is facing a -y, this is actually facing us right now. And so then I would need to figure out what the actual size of this is, which I can use a ruler to do. see. I want to go to wireframe here. Oops. So there it is. It is, looks like it's 4 meters, 4.2 meters by 2.29 meters. So let me just select my thing here and go, okay, so it is 4.2 by 2.9, and then that should work. So in order to do the same thing for all the chairs, I would need to add a new empty arrows and put this over here. I'm remembering it's going to be facing negative y, so I'm going to try to put this like somewhere like that. So you're kneeling a little bit when you're in the chair, not kneeling, but you sit down, so you're lower in height. And then I'll rotate this all the way around and get that person facing that way, and then duplicate that. Oh, actually, I'll assign a Hubs component to this. It will be a waypoint and can be occupied. And I think will disable motion, so you're seated, but will not disable teleported, so you can teleport out of it. And then I'll just duplicate this, move it here, and then place it that way, and then move that, move it there, move that, move it there. And so you might be asking, like, why would I do any of this when I could just use Spoke? It's because Spoke doesn't support 32-bit textures yet, and Spoke doesn't support environment maps. So one of the things you can have in here is in your world. No, it is in the world, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's in here. Yeah. In here, I can add in, like if I go to my hubs, this is the scene properties. I can go to my hubs tab and I can add a component, and I can add an environment settings component, which is what this one is. And I can actually put a reflection map into the environment map here node. And my reflection map is actually a render taken from this camera right here. Right. And that image looks like this. It's this right here. And now this will basically say, okay, everything facing in y will get this as a reflection of it, and everything facing in negative y will get this. And so I have in my scene here applied. You can actually see, that table is reflecting. It looks like it's reflecting this right here, but it's actually reflecting that because it's based off of this image. Right? So I have an environment mapping here that is reflecting accurately as if it were rendered from this camera, because I created render from this camera that is an equirectangular render, which we can talk about how to set this up. That creates that I'm bringing that, I'm saving that file as an HDR file, and I'm adding that file to this environment map node. And then all of a sudden I have 32-bit texture lighting, which gives me that really nice gradient across the ground here, right? All the way from really bright to pretty dark. You get that lighting down here, right? Oh, it looks like I created a cone here at some point because I was assigning empties into it. And all these reflections here, they're no longer reflecting that sky dome box. You can actually see they're actually reflecting the hallway. Right? So it makes it a lot more realistic when downward facing reflective objects are reflecting carpet. Right? It makes it feel way more real to have this table be super shiny. Now, like I was saying before, this is a hack because that I put this logo here after that reflection was already there. I was like, oh, it's got a really big green highlight on the table. I'm going to have to put a light here. You can see that that chair there is reflecting the green, right? Is actually reflecting the green from, you can see it doesn't line up. Like it's like not perfect.
You kind of just blew my mind while I was watching this, because it occurred to me that in the process of building this in such a way, like using the camera to create the lighting map.
Mhm.
That you can actually use that to influence design as well to sort of sell the story of your world a little bit better. And
That's right.
if that's the case, then there's just so much strange opportunity to like have that continuity in your storytelling.
Totally.
Like it's just anyway, I just wanted to say just that completely blew my mind. I really like that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a clever little hack. Because at the current standpoint, you can only have one environment map per scene. But soon, again, the developers are working on this. You'll be able to have multiple environment maps. So you could have one for this room, you could have one for the hallway, and you could have one for this room. But right now, since you can only have one, you have to integrate into your design. Well, I should have something green facing this direction in every room, so that way, the reflections kind of make sense. But you can see, like, you see how these lights on the ground here are going on the table are going horizontally, and the lights on the ceiling are going vertically, right? So that's because the ones in the hallway are going horizontally. So it's actually reflecting hallway lights right here. But who's gonna notice? Come on. So yeah, and again, you see that big white wall there is actually because I've got a bright light down at the end of this hallway. So it will reflect yeah, it will reflect those bright lights on the ceiling. So you can see kind of it appears as if it's reflecting that whiteboard when it's not. So it's a little bit of a hack. Um, so this environment map is super powerful. It makes things look really, really nice. 32-bit light textures are really, really powerful. It makes things look really, really nice. So, and if you could go straight from Blender where you just export a GLB and you go straight in to a scene without having another software stopping point where you're like, okay, now I've got to get it in here, then I have to, publish it from here and do all the changes in here. It does speed up the pipeline. If we could remove Spoke completely, and just do everything in Blender, that would be ideal. But I actually really like Spoke, and I really like the ability to view all of this, all of these parameters, especially like particles. Like, how the hell are you ever going to be able to guess what all these parameters are in Blender without having some type of display? So right now, as it stands, is I'm actually creating all of my elements in Spoke and then just writing down all of the data here and copying it over to my Blender scene. So if I were to create a particle emitter in here, I would create an empty, and arrow's empty, so I know which way it's facing. I would want it to face upward, and that means that I need to be in negative y, right? I'll delete this thing. And then I could add in a particle emitter to it. And then I would basically copy, if once I got this fine tuned, I would copy down all the data from this one into this one, and then I would know that it would look the same. But I don't have the ability to see it in Blender, and so that's the downside. But the cool thing about the upside, though, is that if I were to, I added in all these waypoints, and I'll duplicate them to the other side of the pretty rough. Get everybody facing the right way. Otherwise, it'll feel weird. Cool. And if these are all they all have hubs components, they should. Oh, they don't? No, I gotta add it to each one. Okay, that's fun. So, oh yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah, okay. So that should, okay, that's good. Then I can just file export this as a GLB. Make sure, yep, that's all good. And in here, I can just, the cool thing about this is that if I just upload this, if I just update this, then it will update my scene. Which looks like I kicked myself out of them. Yeah. So that's finished. So if I just refresh this here, I should have a media frame on the wall now. That's roughly the right size. And I should have, oh, no, this is the old one. So let's refresh this one instead. Yeah, this is the old, see, I don't want that anymore. And yeah, this is the goal. Let's see, is this the right one? But what's cool about it is that if let's say I gave this office out to, 10 clients, and the client says that, hey, the chairs aren't working, the chairs are broken. I go, oh, sorry about that. Let me just like create those Blender empties, assign the Hubs components to them, re-upload it to the same scene, to the same project, spoke project, import from Blender, and just update the GLB. And then I can just tell those clients, okay, go ahead and refresh your browser. And then when they refresh it, oh yeah, okay, it's working, thanks. Perfect. Like I don't need to say, oh, I'm sorry, I have a new publish, here's some new URLs, here's some new like their scene is actually going to update automatically. So that's super duper fun. And that means that you can use the same URL. Say you have a weekly meeting at metahood.ca slash your company, right? It's the scene ID slash your company. And in that scene, that URL, you meet every Friday. Well, you can swap out the scene or update the scene to where everyone goes to the same link every week, but where that link takes them to could be a completely different space. You have your weekly Zoom meetings or whatever they may be, and they're always the same place every time. But you could have the weekly meetings actually be in changing scenes and updating scenes and living and breathing environments that change all the time without having to change any of the infrastructure around where you guys meet. So it's a super powerful. Let me see. This just isn't loading right. So maybe I might have broken it. Let's see.
Just while we load, I kind of enjoy the idea that the scenes that people load, at different times of the day, different times of the year, might actually parallel the sun's position for wherever it is
Totally.
you are, because there's nothing worse than sometimes you're I suppose, it's good for games, but it'd be bad for real world immersion to have a really brightly lit, like sun's outside, birds are singing and everything, and then outside it's like, it's already nightfall and it's raining.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's been talked about a lot is like, can we look up the time of the IP address accessing the room and use that data to 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 dynamically change what the
Hmm,
skybox is doing.
well,
So you actually joining in from Tokyo would be joining in a night scene, where I joining in from
absolutely.
Vancouver would be in a day scene.
Well, consider this. This is the key to the success of Pokemon Go. Because Pokemon
Mm.
Go, the weather relates to the power of the creatures. So if you have a frost creature in a winter environment,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and the weather is the same thing. So if it's raining, the game determines that it's raining, and then water Pokemon are stronger, and it's really, really interesting. But anyway, that's just a random thought while we're looking.
No, yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, it's something that's been brought up, and it's something that I would love to have, because it would be great if you had, a day classroom, an afternoon classroom, a rainy classroom, and a night classroom, like, and just were able, like, every time someone loaded into the scene, it would actually be slightly different, and that would help a lot. That would keep engagement up. It would keep the novelty fresh. This is actually not loading, so I must have done something wrong. Or yeah, I don't know. Maybe the name convention is messing up here because they're all named the same thing. Um, Another thing that Spoke does, which is really powerful, is it has a Nav Mesh Generator, so it will generate your floor. If you hit generate, it will look at the angle of all the geo and and decide what you can walk on and what you can't. So at a certain angle, it's too steep to walk on, and you can change all those parameters, and it just creates this mesh that just blankets the whole world, and that's so useful. In Blender, if you bypass spoke, then you actually need to create geo. Like I would basically create. Here's my Nav Mesh geo right here, right, and on it it has a component called Nav Mesh, and that's everywhere that you're allowed to walk, right? Otherwise, you'll just walk right through the walls. So you don't actually run into objects because they're collidable. You hit the edge of your floor plan, so it gives the illusion like you're hitting the chair or like you're hitting the wall. But in fact, like the wall, you can go straight through. It's just the fact that the floor plan doesn't go to that section that it appears. It gives you the illusion that you're running into something. So this is another step that you have to do in Blender if you bypass Spoke. Another like Spoke is awesome.
Can I ask you a question, Connor?
Yes, please.
So yeah, I had this doubt, like when I put my metaverse in the web, it looks like I can go through objects.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can fix this problem in Blender or in Unity, I guess.
Well, for Unity, yeah, you'll probably want to have like you'll need to set objects to collidable somehow,
Okay.
somewhere, right? Or you generate a floor plan, you model out a floor plan that restricts where people are able to walk, and you don't let them walk through columns. But yeah, they're I would search for Unity floor plan or Unity collidable. But see if there's a floor plan system first. I don't think there is. I think it's just collision objects, but it because it's Unity's physics based, and
Okay.
Mozilla Hubs has very basic physics. But
And
Unity has more complex physics.
what about animation? Like if I wanna do some little animation, like some object that is moving.
Um, For hubs, you have something called nonlinear animation tracks, like animation cycles and stuff, which you can add to components the same way you do everything else, which is in here animation. There's a loop animation, and then you select the clip based off of the NLA clips that you have in Blender. But I really don't know jack crap about anything animation because I think animation is an evil practice and no one should do it. But in Unity, um, I imagine that it has a very similar clip-based system where it's a bunch of cycles because it's a game engine. You have a bunch of cycles that you're able to call upon. Um, Actually, I don't think animation's evil. I'm just kidding around. But yeah, I don't. I'm the last guy to ask anything about animation because I just keep it at arm's length at all times.
You try to avoid anything that is animated.
Yeah, I try to keep my soul pure, right? It's like it's heresy. Um, but yeah, so I wouldn't be able to directly answer that. There's a lot of people that are pretty solid with nonlinear animation in Blender. And so I imagine that there is a nonlinear animation Blender animation clips to Unity pipeline that you can probably follow. Or yeah, I think that's probably the way. I don't think people are probably animating cycles in Unity. That doesn't strike me as something that people would do. It's possible that they're doing that, but like I think there's probably a Blender to Unity pipeline tutorial that you can follow in that way.
Okay,
So
thanks.
I can't get. I don't know why it's not loading. So I must have done something wrong here. There must be in the attributes that I set up in the elements here. Um, it must not be working. I don't know why it wouldn't be. But I'm gonna have to do a deeper debugging of this. But do you, Federica, want to hop into your scene here and your Blender scene and see if we can get you into Mozilla Hubs?
Oh yeah. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah, let's do it.
So can you see it?
Yes.
So that's my scene.
Awesome. Can you bring up the statistics for this?
Ow.
In the display, or it's overlays, it's viewport overlays in the top right. It's the little arrow. It's very top right. It's in the viewport. Inside of the viewport top right. So it kind of near the gizmo, the
Here?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, to the right of that. To the right of it, just one more there. Yeah, and then oh, actually, one more, that one, and then there's a statistics on the left column towards the top. Awesome. So now if you hit tab and you hit A, okay, you're at 158,000 triangles.
Is it too much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. So I really wanted to ask you that. I think it's the plane, the problem.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that by itself is 35,000. So if you hide that,
So sorry, I'm still new in Blend. Oh,
oh, that's all right. Yeah, you can hit H on that guy.
H.
Yeah, now you're at 122.
That is good.
It's better. We're trying to get to 50.
250.
So what is the building by itself? If you select the temple,
Sometimes I don't know how to select. Maybe just like this.
yeah,
No,
and then you can hit Shift H. Yeah,
or even the columns, right?
I mean, I'm sure selecting it by group will work. But if you hit Shift H, or yeah, Shift H, right? It's yeah. So that's 57,000 by itself. So that will work. It's heavy, but that will work.
Mhm.
So what you can do now is you can file export that as a GLB. GLBs are like the JPEG of 3D files. They contain materials, textures, polygons, UV sets, 2 UV sets, and animation clips. So they're pretty robust little files, and they're basically the standard for all web streaming GLBs moving forward. So on the right there, you want to hit include, and you
Include,
selected
select
object.
object,
Yep.
and export.
Export. And now you don't have the hubs component,
No.
the hubs add-on. So you'll probably need that, but I actually don't know what happens if you try to upload a GLB without it. I think it should work.
Mhm.
So you won't be able to go straight bypassing Spoke, but you should be able to go to hubs.mozilla.com and create a new project. You can sign in just with your email. So you definitely don't want to share your email. So you may want to like,
Yeah, I think maybe I'm already signed up.
okay, yep. But to log in, oh yeah, you're already logged
Yeah.
in. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so top left, you can go to Spoke. Then you can go to projects in the top right. And then new project. And then just do a new empty. But that's also where the import from Blender button is if you want to bypass Spoke.
Yeah.
And then in the bottom left, you go to My Assets. And then Upload.
Here.
Yep. And then grab that temple, the last one that you just.
So it was. Mhm.
It might be there, Temple Meta V.
Here. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Cool. Open that up. So it is a bit heavy, but it's not bad, right? It's loading in pretty well. And then you can right click on that and place object at origin. Or you can just, click and drag it up.
Mhm.
Awesome. Cool. So maybe, let's see, is it on the ground? It's not, it's floating. So you want to bring that to the ground. And yep, move it over there. Awesome.
Oh, this looks easier than Monaverse.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. And then make sure it is really on the ground because it seems like it's still floating a little bit. Yep. And you can hold control if you want to disable snapping. Yeah, something like that. Cool. And then you're in the top right, your floor plan there in your outliner or hierarchy. You can just scroll down to the bottom of its properties and hit regenerate. And it should create a little floor plan that allows us to walk up those steps and into the building itself. That's pretty sweet. And then in the top right of the viewport, you want to set that to shadows.
Top right
Yeah,
here.
right there. Yeah, set that to shadows. Awesome. And then on your temple, you can set that to cast and receive shadows by clicking on it. And in the properties down there. Now, if you were to bypass spoke, you'd actually have to add the shadow component, and you'd have to turn on cast shadows and receive shadows on the geo if you wanted it to cast and receive shadows without using spoke. So now it's actually casting and receiving shadows. Pretty fun.
Mhm.
And there's obviously you could create particles, or you can do whatever you want. But if you just hit publish to hubs, then you're going to create a scene. And then from there, you can create a room with that scene, and you can share that room with us, and we can all meet there.
Uh-huh.
Is
You
there
want me
any,
to try now or
is there anything else you want to, any lighting or anything else you want to do before we get to that phase?
like I think there is no lighting or anything for now.
Yeah, okay. Then go ahead and hit publish, and let's see what happens.
You want me to try to put a light?
You could, yeah, you could go over to the elements in the bottom left, your little assets there. Yeah, up at the top one is elements. There you go.
Elements? Oh, here, yeah.
And yeah, you have point lights and directional lights. You have a particle emitter and spotlight. You can do whatever you want.
So let's try with a directional light.
Sure. And you do already have a directional light in the scene, as you can see. It's the one casting the
It's the
shadow
sun,
there.
right?
Oh, actually, the one casting the shadow is a different directional light than the skybox. So it's
Mhm.
actually, you can see in your hierarchy, you have the skybox and the directional light. If you turn those two off, then your scene will go to pure black.
Where is this is the hierarchy? What is it?
At the top right. Yeah, the hierarchy. It's like the outliner.
This one,
Yep.
okay.
So there's your directional light. You can see that's casting that shadow. And if you
Yeah.
change that to like a warm color,
Uh-huh, okay, yeah.
pretty fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your skybox is filling those reflections with cooler sky color. But yeah, you can create another directional light going the other way that fills in the shadows cast from that first directional light.
So this one is the new one that I created?
No, the new one you created is actually gone because you didn't drop it into the scene.
Ah, okay.
So
So
that's the default one.
mhm,
So yeah, there's the
that's
other
the new
one.
one.
hmm
So just to
Yep.
to recognize it like this.
Yeah, and the little gizmo changes colors too. And so you can rotate that around.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to be super precise with clicking on
Mhm.
those little handlebars. All right, and if you turn up the intensity, you'll be able to see that a little bit better. It is casting a shadow though, which you may not want to do. You can actually click on the word intensity and click and drag it, so that's fun
Oh,
too.
like this, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you want it to be casting shadows, maybe you don't.
And what is shadows?
Just beneath that is cast shadow. It's a little check mark.
Oh my God, I'm blind.
There it is.
Okay.
Yep. So now that's shining just through the building. So it's just kind of like a
Mhm.
fill light from the right. Um, Pretty surrealistic, very your style, digging it.
Okay,
And go ahead and publish to Hubs.
let's just try.
And then, yep, you can call that whatever you want. Then it's going to bring you up the scene statistics after you hit save and publish. And this is your last chance because it's like, hey, your poly count's a bit high,
Oh.
right? But everything else is fine.
Mhm. So my question is like, should I lower the poly count of all my Blender scene?
For hubs, yeah,
And do you think for Mona too?
no idea, but likely. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
probably. Okay.
I don't know what their limitations are. So once that's finished publishing, you'll be presented with a scene ID, and that scene is something that you can create multiple rooms of. So that way, the three of us could be meeting in a temple, and three other people can be meeting in the same temple, but us not talking to each other.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then oh, the shadows are gone, but that's okay. You can just hit create a room. So there is also that okay, go to your options. What oh actually I'm sorry. You can change the scene name and stuff, which is cool too. Like if you change the room name to Owl 3D, then the URL would actually change to Owl 3D, which is sick. Because you can see in the top left it's Tomato Able Plaza.
Yeah.
So you can change that to whatever you want, and then if you hit save, it will change the URL. So that's fun. And then if you scroll down, actually in the bottom right, if you go to more, then you can go to preferences. And this is a device individual thing. And if you go to miscellaneous, the top right,
Top right.
oh, center, top right, center.
My God.
It's a tab at the top. There it is. Yep.
Ah, me. Okay.
Then here you can material quality. Let's see, there's enable dynamic shadows. You can check that. It's like that one, yep. And material quality is high. I think that's as high as it goes. But if you load in on a phone, for example, no real-time lights will be there. The material quality will be low, and no dynamic shadows are possible. Right, unless I think you can enable it from the phone, but it's not going to be very nice. But on a desktop, it should automatically be higher quality. So the people accessing from the different devices will actually have different graphic qualities when they enter the room. So that way so you can go ahead and refresh now, and hopefully we'll be able to see shadows. If you go back to your spoke scene, because I still don't see shadows, and hit OK. Yeah, there's shadows there. You might just have to republish this. I don't know why it's not working.
Should I try again or?
Yeah, try again. Sometimes it does happen. I have had when I had really complex lighting that I had to refresh a couple times in order for it to work.
Okay. Can I close here?
You can close or refresh. Okay, let's see. Ah, it's still not doing it. I wonder why. That's okay. We can debug this a little bit later.
Yeah.
You go ahead and create a room, or you could, refresh that last other tab that you had, and then if you hit join room, there's your crested shell duck.
Here I have microphone and
Yeah.
audio. So I can even put like sounds, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
there is a sound. Oh, no.
And if you click and drag, you'll be able to look around, and you should be able to walk up and enter your temple.
Let's see. Oh, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
So you can get, oh, sorry, I bumped the mic. You can look around and get a feel for kind of the scale that
Yeah.
because the amount of polygons is the same, whether it's 10 times the size or not, right? So you want to, like, if you want to build a big epic temple, you might need more texture space, but you can adjust these things based off of the feeling you get when you walk around them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you copy and paste that link, we can go into the space too and take a selfie.
Here?
Yeah.
You want me to try?
Yeah.
So
The
chat.
That's the one. Yeah.
So now we can meet up here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna mute myself in Discord.
Because we can talk there, right? That's cool. There is even the audio, like if you are on the left side, I can hear your voice from the left.
Oh, so you can hear him.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
I can't hear him from my perspective. Yeah.
you didn't join the room, yes. But yeah, it is spatial audio. So if I'm on the left side, or if I get further from you, like look, I actually can't get down here. I actually have to get down. But if I get further from you, it gets quieter. Yeah, because I'm in Discord as well. But yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, but I wanted to keep my mic on for Sean. But yeah, if you can see if I'm really close to you, hey, like I'm I'm like right in your face. It's really loud, and if I go way over here, then it's quieter, and you can hear me less loudly. Where'd you go? I lost it. In the floor. All right. So that is that.
Super cool. So if in future I want to upload the scene, can you hear me, Connor?
Yes.
Okay, because you froze. Okay. And if I want to upload this scene on Hubs in future,
Mm-hmm.
like should I, of course, lower all my polygons, like all the objects?
Yep.
Because like my question was about the quality, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like here, I can just delete all these edge loops.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
You
don't
don't need
need
them.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they're adding variation to the model or anything like that, you don't need them.
Okay.
And I triangulate everything.
You triangulate.
Yeah, so if it's a flat surface, it's a freaking triangulated fan.
Mhm.
Because I only add in an edge loop or a vertice when it's actually changing the geometry direction. If it's flat like a wall, then it is just going to be like one polygon. And if it's got like say like you have these bevels around the corners, you
Yeah.
want to have the geo there, but you don't necessarily need that geo to continue down the side. So you can just triangulate, to a corner.
Mhm.
Like let's say for example, that first I don't know what it's called. This like the I didn't even know what. Yeah, if you were to place your hand on it, the thing that you could put a coffee cup on, but not the floor. It's just a little bit higher. Yeah, of that model. No,
Yeah.
of the model that's highlighted right now. Like, yeah, that one. But that first like outer lip thing, I don't know what they're called. I'm a moron. I have no
Sorry.
architecture experience. So it's just where
Here,
you're. Okay, now below that one. Yeah, that middle one that's coming out.
this one.
That's vertical. Just beneath that one. So let's say that you wanted to have on the side there, you have a bunch of edge loops. Let's say you
Here.
wanted to vary like vary the size or vary the shape of that piece, but the wall beneath it was flat. So I actually let me. I'm gonna take a screenshot because I'm too dumb to know what I'm talking about. So if I just take a snip here and let's say I'm gonna share my snip. So let's say you had this here
Yeah.
and all of these edges right there. Maybe you wanted that one to go in and this one to go out, and then the next one to go in, and the next one to go out, and the next one to go in. Let's just say that was part of your design, right? Well, then you would need, oh, I shouldn't have drawn those extra bits, but something like that, right? Then you would need these edges up, these edges here to support that change. But if this wall was all flat and
Yeah.
it didn't have that change, then all of that would just get triangulated to the corner,
Okay, I know what you mean.
right? Because this area is all flat, so we don't need the topo there anymore. Anywhere that you have topo, you should have a change in the shape or in the form, rather. And if you don't have a change in the form, just triangulate it all to the
Mhm.
right? So that way it's not as low res as possible. But that is a step you want to do at the very, very end. Because you don't want to triangulate everything and then realize you need more edge loops because then you'd have to make them all manually and it would be difficult.
I have a
Right. So you want to continue as you're doing it until you get to the point where, okay, I need to start optimizing my model and I need to start getting this to be really low res. What you have there at 158,000 polygons, we could easily have it 20,000.
Yeah, because I think I have the same thing for a lot of models, so I can really decrease the amount of polygons like that. Yeah.
And the more efficient you are at optimized geo, the faster your scenes will load, the more dynamic they will
Exactly.
be, the more, yeah, it'll just be easier on everybody and people will pop into your scenes and be like, whoa, instantly instead of being like, oh, let's wait for this to
Because
load.
I noticed that my scene it looked a little bit heavy, even
Mm-hmm.
to load in in Unity or in like in the Mona metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
So probably it's because like the polygons was seriously high.
That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Likely. Yeah, especially if you don't have textures yet, then that is what it is.
So today I'm gonna clean up everything, probably, right?
Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah. I would
And
definitely see if you can get it down to at least 50.
50, right?
At
Yeah.
least.
I have a super quick question.
Yep.
Does any of this, because I know Maya and some game engines allow for the instancing in order to save um, both poly counts, but I guess to save strain on the hardware. Does Hubs or Mozilla any of that have any of that yet? So like her pillars are really detailed. Could she be instancing those, or is that not a possibility yet?
Way over my head.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't heard anyone talk about instancing. I don't think so.
Mm.
But yeah, I have no idea.
I,
Not
sp-
smart enough for
I
that
suppose
question.
the easiest way to run a play test on that concept would be like to take any environment you have and just double it. Just put it side by side or something like that and see if it impacts your performance.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's automatically doing it for sure.
Okay.
Like, yeah. I mean, maybe in Spoke, if you have the same, actually, if you, I think if you have a GLB that's attached to your URL,
Hmm.
right? And you have that same GLB somewhere else, it's not a new URL. That's fact.
Oh.
How that impacts load time, I don't know because I still think it has. I don't know. That's a great question.
Okay. Because yeah,
It's a really good
I was
question.
looking at her work and I was thinking to myself, if this were, Maya, you could probably just, duplicate special a lot of those objects, and
Right.
that way it greatly reduces the strain on the environment. But
Yeah, because if you had one column and it was the same URL and you duplicated it 12 times, would that be less intense than one object with 12 columns in it?
mm,
That's the question, right?
yeah,
So
and
that's a super, super good question.
so
I'll see if I can ask some Hubs people about that.
yes, so my idea is that, like, I love her pillars and I don't want to take any detail away from her pillars. So would it be better to delete 12 of them, right? And to have one highly detailed pillar that would be
Hmm.
duplicated, right? In a way that doesn't impact the strain, or increase the poly counts really too much for the device. But I'm sure that there's got to be a threshold where the device itself whether your mobile phone or whatnot is like, you know what, this is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, no, I think that's a super interesting concept. I like that question. I'm gonna see if I can get to the bottom of it.
Right
That's a
on.
good idea because it would be better. Like, so the way I've been thinking about all this stuff, and this may help Federica, is that if you have a $50,000 budget, right, it's 50,000 polygons, right? But if we think about it like a budget, and you're creating a space, well, how many thousands of dollars do you want to spend on what item? What's the pool worth to you? What are the columns worth to you? Right? So what I would do if I was building a $50,000 gallery, for example, then I might take 15 to $20,000 of that gallery, or polygons. Let's stick with polygons. Might take 15 to 20,000 polygons to create the most amazing space ever that houses maybe 10,000 polygon art pieces. Right? So that one art piece, or if it's just one art piece, like if it's a temple, then maybe you have 15, 20,000 for the temple, and then 30,000 for the thing that the temple is holding. So it's like, wow, it's so high resolution. Like if you had a brain in there that's like a 25,000 polygon brain, that's really high resolution. Like that's plenty to see an incredible amount of detail in that brain, or a sculpture, or a self portrait sculpture, or something like a sculpture of Rosa Parks, and you have her head, and it's 20,000 polygons. Like that would be plenty to capture her likeness, right? So it's like, okay, if I have a 50K budget, how much is the pool worth to me? Because if the pool is more than 8K, it's like, come on, is it worth 16% of your budget? Because you might be able to do the pool with like 200 polygons, and you get 99% the same look, but it's way cheaper.
Mhm.
So that's how I've been thinking about it. I've been like, okay, my environmental budget is around 15 to 20, and I want to have this one sculpture in the middle that I'm going to go hog out on, and it's 25,000. So that one sculpture is actually more high resolution than the entire building. Right? But that's because wow, how'd you get it so high res? It's like, well, it's because everywhere else is empty.
Mhm.
So that's where thinking about allocating polygon budget and texture budget to the wow moments, to the point of the space, to the like if you've got a sick waterfall going or whatever, then it's like, yeah, maybe you have a 2K texture on that waterfall to make it like really freaking nice. So that way people are like, holy cow, how'd you do that waterfall? Like it might be worth spending the budget, the texture budget there, the polygonal budget there. And of course, the more frugal you are with polygons, the larger and more expansive and more immersive your spaces can be, because, it's like if it's my office is like, let's see, I have it open. My office is 33,000 polygons, and the plant is 6,000, right? So of my office, 20% of it is plant, because the plant looks nice, right? But at that rate, I could still have 4 more plants in there. But I don't want 4 more plants. I might have another 15,000 for a 3D model of New York outside. So that would be sick. It would be cooler than an image if it was an actual model. Right? So it's like I have that budget left, and how do I want to, what do I want to put in the space? If I had a big statue of myself, how many thousands of polygons would I need to make it to still make it super functional, but to make it really appealing as a space. So that's something you can think about. My Leonardo gallery is actually less polygons than the offices, even though it's way bigger. It's
Really?
like, it's like 4 times the size. Um, but because of that, a lot of those polygons are really far from the user. Right? I have some bevels in my office. I've got some trim around the ground, like um let's see, let's just see. The gallery is And I know I'm sure you guys have to go. I have to go after this, so we're gonna jet here. But oh wait, it's not even the right version. Let's see. Yeah, my entire gallery is 22,000. So it's
Wow.
11,000 polygons less than my office. It's only 66% the polygon depth of my office. And it's like 5 times bigger. So I should, and you know what? The only place I'll share my screen here, the only place I'm really using polygons is the roofs. They're super round. And
Mm.
they're like, that's like so high res. Because look at how everything else is optimized.
Oh yeah.
It is
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's very useful to know.
yes. Super like I need the edges up here to curve, but I don't need them after this one. Then I can just because
Mhm.
before they were running all the way down.
So even the floor is super easy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And I actually like if I just hide this, you can see I'm tracing I'm tracing it. And actually, oh, I should triangulate these because they're not triangulated. So there is actually some problems here. It's a bit messier than it could be. It will automatically triangulate when it turns into a GLB. So it will look like that when it turns into a GLB anyways. Um, so that's a bit messier. That's a bit incomplete, but that's okay. But yeah, I mean, you can see like I could have a sphere in here. Like if I wanted to have a sculpture in here, I could have a 20,000 polygon sculpture in the middle here and still be under 50K,
Mm.
right? And so if you like think about what the let's just take a monkey. This monkey is a bit under 1,000. I could have 20 of these in this epic monkey sculpture in the middle, and I'm still only at 41,000
Mm.
to do like that. And I have this crazy weird monkey sculpture, and it's at 51,000. And this has actually helped because one of the artists that rented out this space, like they added in 3D models, these 3D sculptures, this big hummingbird in the middle that was like 2,000 polygons, and a big coin over here that was like 4,000 polygons, and nowhere near hitting my budget, my limitation, right? Like it gives that ability. Even a sphere, if I take this sphere and I say, let's see, how high res can I get it? A sphere this high res is still only 15,000. So I still have 37,000 polygons. And that's like way more high res than I need anything to be, right? It's like nuts how high res that is. So
Mhm.
so I have space to grow, and that's what I kind of think that I it's super important to, even if you have 50,000 polygon budget, like try to keep your space at half of that, so that way people can add in models and it doesn't strain anything. Like, it just gives you a little bit room to grow. If someone says, hey, you know what, can we have this same thing, you know up there? It's like, yeah, no problem. Because I'm still only at 37 and I
Yeah.
just doubled my gallery. And then I could do it again. Now I'm at 53. So that would once I have one, two, three, four, five, six. Once I have 18 rooms, now it's full size. So yeah, it's like I love optimizing. The better you are at optimizing, the happier life will be.
Mhm.
All right, y'all. Then I'll wrap it up. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.
Okay. Thank you so
All right.
much, guys.
No worries.
Thanks to everybody.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. Good luck.
See you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.